There are two types of people in this world. Those who call animal control when a 2,000-pound bison barrels across a golf course, and those who grab their phones, yell "World Star," and start recording. The HOA officers at Tranquil Pines did both. While Marcy screamed about lawsuits and Lyle tripped over a flamingo lawn ornament, Flapjack the bison stormed across their collapsing dignity like a woolly battering ram wrapped in velvet. But this didn't start with hooves. It started with hedge clippers and a smirk. I noticed something was off the moment birds scattered from my yard. Birds don't just flee unless something spooks them, like 3 HOA officers cutting a hole in your fence at 7 in the morning. I was coming back from a dawn photo shoot of sandhill cranes, camera slung around my neck, latte half finished. My first reaction wasn't rage. It was disbelief. Who cuts into a bison enclosure without checking what's on the other side? Derek, the HOA president and full-time beige dictator, decided my fence violated height codes by 2 inches. Apparently, it was an unsightly deterrent to property value. He stood in his salmon-colored golf shirt, hand on hip, like a tyrant in khakis. Marcy clutched her clipboard with the self-righteousness of a PTA queen. Lyle looked like he wanted to be anywhere but there, sweat darkening his khakis. "Karen, we issued a notice last week," Derek said, his fake smile nearly twitching off his face. "I was out of state photographing wild lynxes," I replied. "This is trespassing and destruction of property." "It's enforcement of community standards," Marcy chirped. "Per bylaw 3.1.2, exotic or farm animals are not permitted, and that includes your cow." "He's a bison," I growled. "And he's an emotional support animal. Fully documented." Lyle muttered, "Still weighs more than a sedan." Then came Flapjack. He sensed the breach in his domain and strolled through the hole like a shaggy avalanche with hooves. Derek's face paled. Marcy stepped back. Lyle squeaked. "Don't move," I warned. "Is it charging?" Marcy shrieked. "No," I sighed. "He's grazing." But calm isn't in the HOA vocabulary. Derek ran. Flapjack thought it was a game and gave chase. Lyle and Marcy followed, flailing toward the only safe space, Tranquil Pines Lake. They waded up to their chests, soaked and humiliated. Flapjack stopped at the lake's edge, bored, and wandered off to munch sunflowers. Kevin, my neighbor and drone enthusiast, was hovering overhead, cackling. "Karen, your bison's gonna be a meme by noon," he shouted. He was right. The footage went viral before I could lure Flapjack back with apple slices. The HOA, soaked and seething, avoided eye contact as they sloshed back to land. Derek barked into his phone. Marcy slipped back into the lake after trying to salvage her clipboard. That night, I got a cease and desist email. Polite on the surface, but boiling with veiled threats. They demanded the removal of Flapjack, replacement of the fence, and attendance at a disciplinary hearing. They also slapped on $900 in fines. Something snapped. Maybe it was Derek calling Flapjack a public safety hazard. Maybe it was Marcy's smug voicemail. Maybe it was the way they'd cut into my property like it was theirs. They crossed a line. So I did what any petty, environmentally minded, emotionally stable homeowner would do. I installed trail cams and pointed one at the HOA clubhouse. I logged into my late aunt's old HOA email account. I still had the password and started digging. Turns out Tranquil Pines was far from tranquil. I found rerouted funds, unapproved expenses, suspicious voting records. The silence in the neighborhood wasn't forgetfulness, it was preparation. They would strike back. They did, with bright orange violation notices. 1 per day. Unauthorized livestock. Lawn 2 inches too long. Yard ornament fines. Even the flamingo that floated into my yard from across the street. It was a psychological war. I tried to reason with them. Offered compromise. They didn't budge. Then one day I found a black box in my hedge. A motion-triggered camera. Not mine. It transmitted to a local encrypted server. Milo, my teenage hacker neighbor, cracked it in 20 minutes. There were 8 feeds. My property had 2, labeled Karen Front and Karen Back. I didn't scream. I planned. I followed every bylaw. Painted my mailbox regulation beige. Placed wind spinners exactly 6 feet from the curb. Showed up to every HOA meeting and asked hard questions. Derek squirmed. Marcy chewed pens. But the real power was in the documents I unearthed. My aunt had been a founding HOA member. I found a clause she'd written an emergency homeowner veto effective if the board violated transparency protocols. It was voted in but never repealed. If I could prove violations, I could activate it. Milo helped gather digital evidence. Internal memos, surveillance orders, expense logs. We built a case. But paperwork is forgettable. Drama isn't. So I hosted a barbecue. Invited everyone. Fed them ribs. Let kids ride Flapjack, who wore a sign, emotional support animal. Do not chase or be chased. The HOA showed up. Marcy dropped her phone in potato salad. Kevin flew his drone in circles overhead. That night, I watched footage from Milo. Derek, 2 days before, pointing at my yard saying, "Stack the fines until she cracks." She doesn't know we're logging her violations. That wasn't enforcement. That was harassment. Then came a storm. Flapjack, the digger, unearthed a rusted box near the old oak tree. Inside, my aunt's handwritten ledger. Receipts, meeting notes, and a signed override clause. I had all I needed. At the next HOA meeting, I came prepared. Derek tried to push through the agenda. I stood and made a motion for a vote of no confidence. Then I presented the evidence. Played the clip of Derek plotting. Held up the override clause. The room gasped. Then Harold Croft walked in. Former HOA president. Missing since 2007. "She's telling the truth," he said. He confirmed that Elaine, my aunt, stopped the board from illegally selling private land. They ousted him for supporting her. The override clause was her last line of defense. Derek sputtered. Harold glared. The vote wasn't close. Derek was ousted. Marcy had fled town. An emergency committee was formed. They asked me to run for president. I declined, but I requested a Bison-friendly bylaw. It passed unanimously. In the weeks that followed, fake fines were erased. Cameras dismantled. Transparency restored. Flapjack became the official community mascot. He got an ID badge. He licked it. Then a note appeared under my door. "You think this is over? You don't even know what she did." I dug deeper. Found a 2007 dispute over my aunt's garden. The HOA accused her of encroachment, threatened foreclosure, then dropped the case. The HOA president at the time resigned suddenly. My aunt's notebook had a margin note. "HC knew too much. Protect the clause. They'll bury you if you don't." I prepared for the final showdown. At the annual election, Derek tried to carry on like normal. I stood and called for a vote of no confidence. Presented everything. Played the video. Read the override clause. Then Harold entered, verified everything. The board was dissolved. That night, I signed a petition to permanently remove Derek and Marcy. Twice. Peace returned to Tranquil Pines. And as Flapjack and I watched the sunset from our porch, I whispered, "Next time they come through that fence, we're installing catapults." He blinked slowly, then flopped onto the lawn. We had earned our peace.